Sinners, directed by the exceedingly talented Ryan Coogler, is a fantastic looking film. The cinematography is consistently captivating, and we're gifted a multitude of brilliant and memorable images. This world is so real and lived in, while we get multiple extensive tracking shots that only enhance the dirty realism amongst these characters within this town. The visual effects are tremendous and largely and impressively seamless. There's this ever-present, quietly eerie, and unsettling atmosphere at play. The entirety of the cast does a fucking phenomenal job, and Coogler's wicked screenplay assures that this relatively large cast of interesting and distinct characters have a boatload of juicy material with which to work. Michael B. Jordan unsurprisingly kills it in these dual roles. He's such a strong screen presence here, times two, and he does an awesome job of distinguishing these identical men. Hailee Steinfeld is, to me, one of those performers that is just inherently and perpetually brilliant and naturalistic. Here she's feisty, badass, though emotionally vulnerable. Then she's this chaotic combination of scary and sexy. In a peculiar way, I kind of feel like a proud papa when it comes to Mr. Jack O'Connell. I was introduced to him through his participation in my sixth favorite film of all time, 2006's This Is England, which I've previously discussed on the channel. And the actor was, I believe, 16 or 17 when he played the role of Pukey. So it's actually quite cool to see this really bloody, talented man in such a pivotal, huge, Ryan Coogler directed blockbuster. His Remick character is fucking creepy and charismatic, and my man can bust out an Irish jig like a motherfucker. The score, music being perhaps the most prevalent component within this picture, is bold and spectacular. I never would have anticipated, given the early 20th century setting, that the wonderful Ludwig G would essentially present a sort of cliff notes on the illustrious history of music. Said composer, whose surname I won't even try to legitimately attempt, having scored multiple movies within my top 80-ish, 2015's Creed and 2023's Oppenheimer, the former having the same director-composer pairing as the picture at hand. Everything in this piece regarding live musical performance is absolutely fantastic in every respect. I'm captivated during scenes in which the talented Miles Caton's Sammy plays us a tune while he strums the guitar for a crowd, as well as the culty community jams, if you like. Though there's a particular tune-centric scene that truly had me entranced. A concept that is interestingly introduced right as the picture commences is that some folks are so spiritually in tune that when they play their essentially magical music, the spirits of both the past and the future can be conjured. Preacher Boy unknowingly performs this supernatural act mid-film, and the entirety of the scene was both ballsy and beautiful to me. In fact, it was initially and surely deliberately jarring in a good way to witness the gradual implementation of modern music into this specific early 20th century world. The mere inclusion of the scene exactly as it is depicted is so bold and creative. This is one of those sequences where, in the hands of a lesser filmmaker, it could have been a campy disaster, but I feel this to be such a special scene. Firstly, much like the rest of the movie, it's beautifully shot. It is exceedingly musically intriguing, while it emits numerous tones throughout its maybe 6-minute duration, and it does so organically. After my awe-inspired self viewed the now multi-generational musical performance, I was then transported to this sort of hellish landscape. Our focus gradually shifts to Remick and his new vampire recruits as they watch an evidently enticing fiery shindig. Whilst this exceptional scene depicts the integral theme of the deep and spiritual power of music, so much of the picture's remainder tackles the theme of freedom. What constitutes true freedom? And is it even attainable? Of course, in general, freedom is a perpetually present concept, given the time period, the setting, as well as the clan's presence, but we definitely dig deeper at a number of points in the film. It's mostly overtly addressed in the kind of post-credit scene, which I'll return to in a moment, when an elderly preacher boy mentions to the Stack and Mary zombie couple that prior to that vampiric nightmare, when there was a great sense of community initiated by beautiful music, he, for once, felt true freedom. The juke joint was very much an escape for many folks, but even that supposed safe house was very much tainted. Not only did a Klansman sell the joint to the twins in the worst of faith, to put it politely, we also almost instantly have an attempted invasion from a couple KKK crackers, brainwashed by their Southern Irish blood-sucking leader. Thankfully, at least anecdotally, our hero, if you like, absolutely tears apart this vast group of Klan members with bullets, though he does die in the process, which, in very bittersweet fashion, reunites him with his late baby, as well as his now late wife/lover. As you can probably infer from my praising of numerous, practically all elements of this picture, I am a bloody massive fan, through and through. In closing, I simply wanted to address not a complaint of mine, but a genuine question, alongside a quasi-retracted, somewhat maybe kind of complaint from my lovely pal, with whom I viewed this excellent picture. My question is, when an individual becomes a vampire, how much of their true self remains? Because, for instance, when Bo Chow becomes one of them, he attempts to persuade his wife Grace to join him outside, which would, of course, if she were to abide by his wishes, end in her mutilation and subsequent vampiric transformation. It seems as though this bloodthirsty being is all that is left of the man, while we ultimately discover that Smoke allows Stack to continue living as a vampire as long as he promises to leave Preacher Boy alone, which tells me that these vampires can in fact show self-restraint and a bit of a moral conscience. Was it that instinctively deep twin connection that allowed for Smoke to get through to what little of his brother was left? Or is Stack in his entirety what remains, while he simply has that additional thirst for blood? But if that's the case, why is Bo seemingly straight up sinister, wanting for his wife to join him, with no attempt at negotiation or anything of the sort? Again, this isn't a complaint. I'm curious. I've only seen the picture once, so perhaps I missed something. And the last component of this awesome, unique film that I'll be discussing is that of the quote-unquote post-credit scene. Firstly, after I waltzed out of the cinema with my lovely bespectacled pal, he mentioned to me that although he adored the flick, as I did, he had a minor issue with the pacing. My immediate question to him when he brought this up was, if the post-credit scene were to simply be the final scene of the movie we saw prior to the credits rolling, would that have bumped you less? To which he replied, yeah, maybe. I absolutely dug what was depicted within said scene, but the material within it very much feels like the end of this story, not an extra featurette. This scene truly made the movie feel complete to me, and it's integral, really. So I can understand how it might be a wee bit jarring for folks to see the ending title card before experiencing the real ending of the movie over the course of a full scene, not just a small bit. I'm actually curious to know what went into the decision making there. Ryan Coogler is an absolute stud of a filmmaker, so I'm sure he had his reasons. Sinners was a fantastic, creepy, gripping, exhilarating experience. It knows exactly what it is. It is such a clear, specific vision. One of my favorite films of the year, and I can't wait to see more original material from Mr. Coogler.